Waheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Waheguru Ji Ki Fateh. Today's class, Swamiji started off saying that life is a pursuit of joy, a joy that isn't affected by circumstance. Whether you become rich or poor, diseased or healthy, poisoned or crucified, cut joint by joint or boiled in water, respected or dishonored, praised or slandered, your joy should remain exactly the same. And your joy should remain high and pristine throughout. It shouldn't depend on your circumstance, because the truth is, in this world, whether it's this life, whether it's a future life, the ups and downs are not going to stop. You're not going to find some state in this life where it's always going to be good. If one life you got everything you wanted, the next one you won't. And then the next one after that, maybe half you got what you wanted, half you didn't. Circumstances will never be always at the peaks. There's always going to be downs. This is the nature of this world. It always goes up and down. But the point of having this body was to find a place within yourself that is unaffected by everything on the outside, because you can't control the outside. You have to then, there's only one option, find something inside of yourself that's not affected by the circumstances outside. Swamiji then read a poem, Hey God, give me a place in your heart. I am yours, but I want you to make me yours. Hey God, you make me yours, because even though I say that I'm yours, I don't trust myself. I want you to make me yours, because if you do that, then there's no letting go. Then Swamiji continued on with Sidh the Ghost, 4 questions that the Sidhs ask Guru Nanak Dev Ji, and they respond. First question is, Kis karana griho tajyo udasi? To obtain what did you leave grihasti and now have become an udasi or a sannyasi? Kis karana eho pekhne vasi? And for what reason have you taken on different robes, different dress that you're wearing, different fake that you look like? What type of business do you deal in? What do you trade? And those people, the disciples that are with you right now, how will you carry them across? So these are the 4 questions that the Sidh ask Guru Nanak Dev Ji. First question, Kis karan griho tajyo udasi? Grihasti basically means somebody who is still attached to the senses, body, mind, thoughts. They're still attached to those things. And majority of the world, if you see, when you live as a grihasti, you have to be attached. You have to pay the bills. You have to pay your mortgage. You have a family, so you have to tend to their needs. You have to naturally do this in grihast. So one that's still attached to the senses, body, mind, and everything else that's related to these things, anything that's related to the body, so your children, your spouse, your mother and father, anything that's related to the mind, your identity, your name, how poor or not poor you are, all of that stuff. That's what a grihasti is. A sannyasi or odasi is not really somebody who has gone to the forest and sits in the forest and then thinks about everything else that a grihasti thinks about. A lot of people that go to the forest, they do that. They spend their entire time thinking, oh, I should have just kept being a grihasti. Oh, I still wanted this. That's not an udasi. An udasi or sannyasi is someone who has detached from these. Really, it's a complete detachment. And that detachment obviously has to start mentally first, that there's a complete mental detachment, and then a detachment from there. And as a result of that, there's a possibility that this person might retreat into some place where there's not many humans, or a place where they can be doing sadhana directly with their guru. So going to the forest, being alone, living in solitude, has to be a result of something that's already happened inside. Going to the forest or living alone on it in and of itself is not enough. The detachment has to start inside. So the answer to this question that Guru Nanak Dev Ji gave was Gurmukh khojat paye Odasi. That paye Odasi, my grip on the world has loosened. Swamiji explained this really well. To loosen your grip on the world is this: I don't have a desire to collect anymore. And I don't have the desire to show it off. Typically in the world, things that you need, like a house, food, clothes, all these things, you need those things to survive and, keep yourself healthy and moving forward. But it's the stuff after that that becomes problematic. The collection and this desire to show off the collection, maybe subtly show it off or grandly show it off, to keep face in front of other people, whether it's relatives or your neighbor or people that your colleagues, whatever it is. When the grip loosens in the world, when you don't have a desire to collect anymore and you don't have a desire to show it off anymore. And then Gurmukh khojat, through the Guru, I am here searching for Brahm, ultimate bliss. And because of that, the grip on the world has decreased. Gurmukh khojat paye Odasi. I'm searching for the thing that my Guru is talking about, Brahm, complete bliss, a state that is unaffected by all circumstances. And searching for that, the grip on the world has loosened. Naturally, it's loosened now. Gurmukh means a person that is not on this process via their own mind. They're not listening to what their mind is telling them to do, but they're on this spiritual process via the commands and the teachings of their Guru. And it has to be this way. There's a reason. Those that have prioritized their mind, they haven't found Satya or the truth. The reason you really need someone who has already gotten to the end point is because truth and Brahm is so subtle. It's there, it's here, it's within you right now, but it is so subtle. It is so precise that you have to get it extremely right in order for the enlightenment to happen. Otherwise, there is much, much more chance that you're going to slip off into the wrong direction. Even if it's something that seems like, I feel like this is the right direction. The slip, you have such a high chance of slipping off of what exactly precisely Brahm is, that most seekers, even in the seeking world, they don't get it. And that's one of the reasons you need the Guru's guidance, all like pretty much one-on-one sometimes, because the Guru understands exactly where you're slipping and they understand the preciseness of what you have to get to. And that's why the alive portion of the Guru is so important. Because I'll tell you, even right now, let's say there's Gita. A lot of people think I'll just read the Gita and I'll have Kalyan happening. But if you think about how the Gita was written, it was a one-on-one, alive interaction between Arjun and Krishna. So Arjun got enlightened because he had that one-on-one interaction. And the entire Gita is made up of all of these doubts, these slippage points of Arjun that Krishna is tackling. And they tackle for 18 chapters until Arjun's like, I get it. It happened. And then the Gita finishes. But if somebody today reads the Gita, it can help you to a large degree. But your slippage points are going to be different than Arjun's slippage points. Your problems and obstacles are different from his. And if Krishna was alive and one-on-one with you, then it absolutely could happen. Maybe you form your own Gita. But without that one-on-one interaction, it's not possible. So you need that alive guidance. And that's what Guru Nanak Dev Ji is saying, Gurmukh khojat paye Odasi. That now I'm here, alive, I'm following my Guru, and I'm loosened, the grip on the world has loosened. Kis karan eho pekh nivasi. Why have you taken on the dress of a religious person or a spiritual person? Darsan kya tai pekh nivasi. And this sentence or this statement by Guru Nanak Dev Ji is so important because they're saying that if you're going to look religious even, or you're going to do anything on the spiritual process, it has to be for darshan, not because you want to identify with the robes that you're wearing. They didn't say that they took on a pek because they wanted to be part of a community. They said they took on this pek for darshan. Darshan kehtai pek nivasi, for the realization of that my atma, that my apa, myself is Brahm. Atam Ram, Ram hai Atam Chinas Gur Vichara hai. Again, even knowing the apa as Brahm, this happens through the vichar that the Guru gives. This is why I've taken on this dress. We've identified ourselves for so long by different identifiers. I'm a Sikh, I'm a Hindu, I'm a Christian, I'm old, I'm young, I'm tall, I'm short, I'm rich or poor, I'm a male or I'm a female. But the Guru tells you that you are none of this, that in actuality you're a limitless consciousness. Unbound by body or mind, you are ever free and you are ever blissful. Your bliss has never been affected. So if you don a spiritual process, it should be for this inner realization, not because you want to be identified by the robes that you're wearing. So many people, they join, like they do the Janeu ceremony and they become a sannyasi. But many people do it so that because they look at the order and they're like, wow, I want to be a sannyasi. But you're only supposed to don a spiritual process for inner realization, not because you want to be identified with that community, because then the robe has lost its purpose. If the robe that you're wearing becomes your identity, you've lost the way, you've slipped. And only a guru can then come in and says, that's not why you're donning this robe. In fact, the robe isn't even the part that's necessary. You're on this pathway for inner realization. That has to happen, right? Then, what business do you deal in? What do you trade? Guru Nanak Dev Ji responds saying that my dealing, my trade is in truth. Before we continue on, Swamiji made a note on listening, especially when you're in satsangat. Ramayana says, Hari Ananta, Hari Katha Ananta, Kahe Sunahi Bahubeda Sabasanta. That Hari is already limitless, but the Katha is also limitless. And many different types of saints listen in different ways. There's a Sakhi Swamiji tells us about here. Shiva they leave their mountain and they go to Pragraj, where there's lots of Katha happens there. And Parvati asks, where are you going? And Shiv responds saying, I'm going to go listen to Hari Ki Katha. Parvati says, people praise you. You're the one that's being praised. Why are you leaving for Katha? And Shiv says, Hari Ki Katha is even higher than me. And so I must go listen. Sabte Uttam Hari Ki Katha. Guru Granth Sahib Ji Maharaj saying that Hari Ki Katha is Uttam. So Katha is Uttam. But the one that's listening, the listening has to be on par. There are many, actually almost every order, every spiritual process has a name for those people that have gotten enlightened merely by listening. For example, in the Buddhist tradition, they have meditators and so forth, but there are people, even during Buddha's time, they're called Sravaks. And there was one, I don't remember the full story, but basically there was a seeker and all he did was listen to Buddha and he got enlightened. Basically, Buddha used to give a lotus flower anytime anybody in their sangha had become enlightened. And so there's these really, really strong meditators standing by who've been meditating for a long time. And Buddha gets up and he gives a lotus flower to someone who recently joined the sangha and just listened. They hadn't done any meditation yet. and he gave a lotus flower to them. And these meditators are watching, thinking, what? They haven't even gone into meditation. All they have done so far has gone to the Sangha and listened. And then the story continues. Even in the Gurmukh tradition, there have been cases where just listening has been enough. They haven't had to even descend into meditation yet. And in Japji Sahib, the 4 paudiyaan suniye, look at what Guru Nanak Dev Ji is saying. They're saying just by listening, you can become freed, you can become a Sidh, you can become a Peer, a Nath, you can transcend death, you can destroy all sin and pain, just merely by listening. The Upanishads also have a category for this. They say, Sarvan Matren Swa Atma Uplabdhi. Sarvan Matren means only or merely. Merely by listening, Sarvan, Swa Atma Uplabdhi, you can recognize who you are. Why is this a possibility? Why is it possible that just by listening, enlightenment can happen? Because it was by listening that you became what you are right now. It was by collecting information from the outside, not meditating. You didn't meditate to become a Sikh, or you didn't meditate and then your mom told you, meditate and have friends, meditate and go to school, meditate and become rich. You can't become poor. You can't do this. You can't do that. They just told you these things. You listened incorrectly and you became all these things that you're identified as. So if you listen correctly, you can also become what you originally are. You can retreat back. So then why the process of meditation? Why is meditation put into the game? Meditation is put into the process so that your listening ability gets better. Right now, when you listen, your vrittiyaan are so everywhere. It's too hectic up here that even if there's one channel of correct listening, it gets in and all of a sudden brushed over by all these other vrittiyaan that you have. So actually the channel is there. That's why Maharaj says Shabad is important. Remember the last time we did Surut Shabad? That you have to have the teaching. That channel's open. But then what else needs to happen? If you're Shuddh Mati Wala, if you're someone who has already worked on your vrittiyaan, perhaps in your last life or this life, and your vrittiyaan are shant, then just that one channel that the Guru has given you, it'll be enough. And you'll retreat. Meditation is for those people, and especially in Kaljug, because vrittiyaan are naturally more chanchal, is to shut those vrittiyaan off, so that one channel, the Guru tells you, and it happens, period. That's where the meditation process comes in. Krishna also says it in the Gita, Adhyatma Vidya Vidyanam. Brahm Vidya is my form. That is my closest form. Krishna says this. And they actually list out how they look at different methods of getting to Vaheguru. And Brahm Vidya is put first. And then meditation and sadhana and all of that stuff. So then Swamiji talked about the Raja Parikshat, who just listened for 7 days and it was enough. So listening has to happen correctly, and you have to believe this listening. Think about it this way. When you listen to a friend and a friend tells you, hey, if you want to be successful at this, wear this or do this. Do you see how much you believe them? And you're like, oh, okay, I should do that. You give so much belief and trust into people that tell you how to be in the world. You need to give even more belief to the Guru that's telling you you're not any of this, your consciousness. Then you're gonna need to wash off all the wrong stuff and get onto the right pathway. So back to the question here. What type of trade do you deal in? I'm sure all of you know the Sakhi of Mehta Kalu Ji, who is Guru Nanak Dev Ji's father. They give Guru Nanak Dev Ji a little bit of money, say 20 rupees, and they say, go do a Sacha Sauda. Meaning, go make some profit. Go to Lahore, buy some things in whole or bulk, and you come back here and we'll sell it for more, and then we'll make profit off of it. So Guru Nanak Dev Ji thinks, you know what, I need to make a sacha sauda, a profitable trade. And he takes Bala with him. On the way, they see a village, some saints that are sitting in Simran and meditation and praise of God. And Guru Nanak Dev Ji just asks them, have you eaten yet? And one of the saints responds, we've been sitting here for 3 days in meditation, but the food hasn't come yet. And Guru Nanak Dev Ji gets so happy because here's an opportunity to make a profitable trade. And so they take Bala, they go to the market, get some lentils, grains, veggies. They make the food and they set up a langar. They said, everybody sit down in rows, we're going to hand you food. And the saints, when they eat, especially if you're eating after 3 days, they're just thanking and giving out blessings. And Guru Nanak Dev Ji sees this as the profitable trade. A note that Swamiji here made was, if you ever in your life choose to feed somebody, feed them happily and with joy. Don't feed them with irritation. Don't be irritated and feed them because you have to look good. No, actually feed them with joy and happiness. And all these saints sent out thanks and blessings. So this was a Sargun version of, things that we can do in the world to have a good trade. But here, what they're saying, Sach vakar ke hum van ja rahe. Guru Nanak Dev Ji is saying, I deal in the truth. And this dealing, where does the dealing of truth happen? It happens in Satsangat. Sant mile kich suniya kahiye, mile asant mast kar rahiye. Here's a way that you can go about your spiritual process. If you meet a saint, listen first, then say something, like ask a question. But if you meet somebody who's not a saint, who has not been enlightened or doesn't know the process, just be quiet. There's no reason to get into an argument or conversation for that matter. Just quiet. Must kar rahiye. In your life, when you were looking at the trade of truth, in your life, look back and see, what have you traded in? This is actually, I'm interacting with you right now. And I'm asking you, no matter how old you are, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, look back in your life and check, what have you traded? What have you gained? And that stuff that you wanted, joy, happiness, peace, have you got it yet? Because here's what trading that you've done so far. Basically, at the very base level, you trade your energy and you trade your time for the ultimate return of happiness or peace. That's your base trade. And in between, you're, doing whatever. But of all the things, of the energy and the time you've traded for your house, for your relationships, for your health, for whatever, have you gained something from it? Have you gained what you originally thought you would gain from it? And here's a question I really want you to ponder. Have you gained from it something that death cannot take away from you? Because it might seem like that with your money, you bought your house, or you bought your car, or you have a great family, or you have all this stuff. But you actually have not really bought it. You're paying off its lease. You've just rented it. Because think about it. If death can take it away from you, then what you have right now, it's just on lease. It's just you're renting it. And what are you paying in rent? Your time and energy to upkeep it. But whatever you're paying in energy and time, it's going to get taken away. At the time of death, that's when the lease is going to be done. So tell me, have you gained anything that death is not going to take away from you? Have you put your energy and time, and have you traded it for something that you can actually take away with you at death? Or have you actually just been paying off energy and time in lease payments for things that death is going to say, give it back to me now. Your houses are going to go, they're either going to get destroyed or they're going to be taken on by your sons and then their sons and then their sons and their sons and their sons, whatever. Tell me something. Do you even remember who your great-grandfather or great-grandmother was, or your great-great-grandmother, great-great-grandfather was? You don't remember them, and you don't give two shits about them either. Just like that, nobody is going to care about you. You're not going to be on their radar. So tell me, have you gotten something that death is not going to take away from you? So here's a true trade. Here's what you should be putting your energy and your money and your time into. Something that death is not going to take away from you. Here it is. What can be known or seen is not me. It cannot be me. This object can be known. I'm knowing it currently. Therefore, it can't be me because there's a distance between knowing the knower and what is known. So that's objects. My hands, my feet, my entire body can be known. Therefore, it can't be me. Because there's a distance between us. You see this object? I'm the knower. This is known. There's a distance here. The hands, the body, and me, there's a distance there. That's why I can know it as separate from me. Then close your eyes and in your mind. Your thoughts are coming and you have the capacity to know them. If you didn't know, then would you even know that the thought came or went? You're knowing it, meaning there is still some distance there. Then all of the feelings that you're feeling, no matter what they're incited by, sad, happy, whatever. What you're feeling, you're knowing it, there's a distance there. Then if everything has a distance, there's a distance between me and the feeling, me and the thought, me and the senses, me and the body, me and the objects, then what am I? Not at my core, but exactly where I am. What am I? Who am I? And one thing that's the same in all of these sentences is that you are capable of watching these things. You're capable of knowing it. You're capable of knowing the feeling, knowing the thought, knowing the sense, knowing the body, knowing the object. The knowing capacity inside of you doesn't cease. Even in deep sleep, you're knowing the deep sleep, because when you wake up in the morning, you're like, wow, I had no dreams at all. Something was knowing it still. Knowing even fundamental ignorance is within your capacity. I am the watcher, not the watched. I am pure consciousness. You are just merely consciousness. You are nothing else. There is no form in you, no words, no color. You are just awakeness. I am the consciousness that everything else happens in. If a thought arises, I have to be there to watch it. That's the proof that the thought was there in the first place. In fact, if I, the watcher, do not exist, the entire cosmos collapses. The feeling exists because I know it. The thought exists because I'm knowing it. The senses, the body, the objects, rather the entire cosmos exists because I have the ability to know it. Otherwise, if the knowing ability isn't there, there is no proof that the cosmos exists, that thoughts exist, that feelings exist. The things that are watched, they depend on me. The things that are being watched, they depend on the watcher. But the watcher does not depend on the things that are being watched. I do not depend on my thoughts to exist. I don't depend on my feelings to exist. I don't even depend on my body to exist. I don't depend on anything in this cosmos to exist. I am swatantra, independent. But everything else The thoughts, the feelings, the mind, the body, the objects, the entire cosmos depends on me to exist. The watcher is never being superseded. But the watched, they all depend on me, the watcher. Consciousness is the very fundamental plane that the entire virtual reality is written on top of. You are consciousness. And you have to realize this before you die. Before your hair turns white and your teeth fall out, you have to put all of your energy and time and trade it to realize this, that you are consciousness and nothing else. Consciousness is something death cannot take away from you, because in death, you'll see that I'm watching the so-called death, but I am not dying. In fact, death depends on me to happen. I never die. That's how inward or central, how subtle and precise you have to become in order for you to realize that you are Ram. You are consciousness. You are Chetan. You are Sadashiv. You are Shivoham. You are Soham. Tat Niranjan Jot Sabai Soham Pedana Koi Jio. Tat, that, Niranjan. Niranjan means unaffected, unsoiled by anything. Unsoiled by feelings, unsoiled by thought, unsoiled by visions and imaginations, unsoiled by tangible things. Tat Niranjan. Jot Savai, that Jot, that unsoiled thing is within everyone. I am that thing. So hung. So meaning that unsoiled Tat Niranjan is me. I am that. So hung. Pedana koi jio. There is no difference. There is no saying otherwise. This is the trade that you have to do. Your time and energy has to be traded for this realization. Otherwise, you're going to die again and be born again, die again, be born again. And you're always going to be at the beck and call of death anytime you trade your energy and time. That doesn't sound like a good trade to me. Guru Nanak Dev Ji is saying, I trade the truth because I can take the truth with me after death. It's a proper trade. It's a profitable trade. It's a satya sauda. Everything else that you're doing is not profitable. Death is gaining the profit. You are on the losing end of it. Next question. Kyon kar saath ranga bahu pare? This is really important if you want to engage in this trade. The Siddhs are asking, how are you going to get your disciples across? And Guru Nanak Dev Ji answers, Nanak Gurmukh uttara sapari. There is merely one way for these seekers to get across. They have to have unbroken trust in what I'm telling them. They have to follow, and they can get to the place that I'm speaking from. Guru Nanak Dev Ji is speaking from. Rather, any guru is speaking from. Those seekers that surrender like Bailana, they become Gurmukh. They don't take pride in their own personal knowing. They might be more educated. They might know more. But still, they give their guru's teachings the most exalted position in their life. When a seeker thinks that they know better, they hit walls, they feel irritation, they feel struggle, they feel like it's not working. But when they surrender, they blossom. And the amazing thing about a guru and a saint is, throughout the process of struggling, striving, not listening, they merely love. The guru stays patient and loves and keeps the sanctuary where the seeker can return. But when the seeker listens to the guru, they blossom. And when they prioritize their mind, they hit walls and they struggle. Ego does not depart when you consistently keep telling yourself, I know better. Ego doesn't depart until you give your mind to the guru. When you go to the guru, drop all of your opinions and understandings. When people tell you, even spiritual people tell you, do this or do that, then have the courage to ask them, did you have Vaheguru Darshan yet doing this? Have you had Atam Gyan doing this? Have the courage and himmat to ask them. And if it hasn't happened, then they don't have the authority to tell you. Then tell them, when it happens to you, I will be more than glad to listen to whatever you have to tell me. Choose your sadhana, choose your meditation, your meditative steps wisely. Sadhana works when the one telling you about the sadhana has reached their target, that they've reached self-realization. Then finally, Swamiji concluded with saying that the grace that has dawned on them via their own guru, they are just giving us that. They're not giving us distracting lines on the side. They're giving us a straightforward path right to the center. The flower that bloomed inside of Buddha, inside of Krishna, inside of Guru Nanak Dev Ji, inside of Kabir, inside of Bhai Naina Ji, that can blossom inside of you. You have the same God potential within you. What you need is correct direction and integrity in how you're following that direction. The Guru is going to give you correct direction. That's part of the process. But how much integrity do you have when you're following those directions also matters. Satpurukh Jana Janya Satguru Tiska Now. Those who have recognized Satya within themselves, they are deemed to be Satguru. So that person who has experienced the truth in this life, they can guide you as well, and that is your Guru. And like Kabir ji said at the beginning of today's class, Bhavare Tain Gyan Vichar Na Paya, Birtha Janam Gavaya, one of my favorite shabads, and plus, Bhai Harjinder Singh is the best. He's one of my favorite ravis. It is so true in this lifetime, if you don't get Gyan Vichar, if you didn't get the correct teachings and contemplate them, you have lost this life. But you're good because you're getting really high quality, solid teachings here. The final statement is, become who you are originally. Stop pretending. Stop putting on a facade. Become who you are originally. Don't do what others want or what society wants. Don't become your identities, your body and mind. You are consciousness only, free and blissful. And remember, everybody else is also that. We just have to realize it. So that's where today's class ends. Please forgive me for my mistakes. Vaheguru Ji Ka Khalsa, Vaheguru Ji Ki Fateh.